had, years ago, I was living on the north side of Chicago. And while walking one day, I see this lady from a distance. And as I get closer to her, I realize it's someone I went to college with. So we started talking, and I asked her, well, what are you doing up here? She said, I'm looking at an apartment. And I was like, where? She said, that building. And I was like, that building? She said, yes. It's the building that I lived in.
Wow.
So fast forward, and we had been friends for years. So she lived on the 3rd floor, and I lived on the 5th floor. So we would visit each other most days. And so one day, I come home from work, and I stop by her apartment, and we spend some time together. And as I'm leaving, I press for the elevator, and we're still talking, and there's a guy in the elevator. Spider senses go off, but nevertheless, I get on the elevator. The guy looks at me, and he doesn't say anything, he's just staring. So then he says, what size shoe do you wear? It's like, interesting question. I answer. Get to my floor, I step off the elevator, he steps off with me. It's like, interesting, I've seen this guy before. So I go toward my apartment, and he steps in front. He says, give me your shoes. I was like, oh yeah. So I was like, no. Then I start to back off, and I go to the apartment next door, and I knock on the door. No one answers. So I go to the next apartment, I knock on the door, and the lady answers. So I said, call the police, call the police. And she says, I don't have a phone, I just moved in.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my God. So I go into her apartment because she has the door ajar. So I'm pushing, and he's pushing, and she's standing there. So I'm pushing, he's pushing, so he pushes the door open. So as he pushes the door open, I start to back up, and I'm trying to fight him off. She has a sofa, and there's an ottoman. So of course I fall over, and I'm kicking at him. So he grabs one leg, he takes the shoe, grabs the other leg, he takes the shoe, and then he leaves.
Right.
So I have an orange in my hand and keys in my hand. Never dropped them. So I'm thinking to myself, I get up, I looked at the lady, and then I walk out. So I go to my apartment, I call the police, and I call my girlfriend. So she comes up, and I'm telling her what happened, and there's a knock on the door, and the police come in, and I tell them what happened, and they're like, okay. You called us for shoes. Well, they were new. Of course I called him about my shoes. And he robbed me in my building. So we talk, and so the policemen leave. And as they're leaving, there's a bag sitting outside my apartment. And the bag contains the shoes the guy was wearing. And that's the end of my story.